This is Jack Fishman behind the camera talking with music director Sebastian about the January 7th and 8th subscription concerts, his debut as music director with the San Antonio Symphony. Maestro, you've selected Liszt and Dvorak. Let's start talking about Liszt.
Liszt, yeah. This year we celebrate the 200th anniversary of Franz Liszt's birthday. So I think it's a great occasion to start the year and honor this really enormously important composer. Franz Liszt, Hungarian composer, a big piano virtuoso, actually to be seen like the equivalent to Niccolò Paganini on the violin. He was the equivalent, very wild pianist, much wilder than Chopin, who was more sophisticated and more also not so outgoing and extrovert like Liszt. He was really a showman. Interestingly enough, a very long journey in his life, starting as a showman and the darling of the society and a lot of lady friends. He ended up being a priest. And last but not least, Richard Wagner's father-in-law. And also, I think he influenced Wagner quite a bit, and we are going to discover that a little bit later. Franz Liszt, Hungarian descent, and never denied, of course, his Hungarian roots, and we all know his Hungarian rhapsodies and folk tunes that always appear in his music. Also created a school in Germany, residing in Weimar, which maybe was the intellectual capital of Germany at the time, especially when Goethe and Schiller lived there. He created a school that tried to replace the symphony by something else symphonic, because Beethoven was so overpowering for most composers. They thought it is very hard to compose now a symphony. We need to find another form for symphonic music. And they created the symphonic tone poem, which later Richard Strauss, of course, also developed much more. And Liszt was one of the champions of this form. Two pieces, Mazeppa and Les Préludes are in the program. They are maybe the most well-known pieces of this genre written by Franz Liszt. Both pieces influenced by poems. That's why they're called tone poems. So he writes, basically he describes the content of the poem, sometimes even the structure of the poem, and puts it into music without sung words. Mazeppa is a very fantasy-like story, actually, a little bit surreal, but honoring a very important Hungarian hero, Mazeppa. And the way the piece starts, it's already we see Mazeppa riding on his horse, half dead, and the whole piece is full of passion and enormous energy. And in the middle of the piece, when it becomes quiet and calm, we discover the initial start of the Tristan prelude and a slight hint of the Tristan chord, which is quite interesting. I think that how influential Liszt was on Richard Wagner at that time. Les Préludes is a piece that is maybe the most well-known symphonic poem and by Liszt, and I think everybody who comes to the concert will recognize, I have heard that before, I have heard that music before, I have heard that music before. The most well-known, maybe not the most pleasant use of that piece was during the Third Reich when the Nazis used it actually to announce the Wochenschau for propaganda. Of course, I mean, that has no connection to Les Préludes, neither the content of the poem or the composer Franz Liszt, of course. But it just describes how well the music describes heroism. And I think that's why it was used. Like Beethoven 5 was used for propaganda as well. But the misuse of the music should not prevent us from enjoying it. Les Préludes is a very colorful piece, full of great melodies, very heroic, and then very lyrical, and showcasing the orchestra in a fantastic way. Also, Liszt's orchestration is very interesting and colorful, and I think he's alongside with his French friend, actually, Hector Berlioz, one of the most creative and one of the most influential people on renewing how orchestration in the Romantic era is going to be. So come to this concert, enjoy two wonderful masterpieces of this genre, the symphonic tone poem, by the wonderful Hungarian composer Franz Liszt.
Thank you. That's January 7th and 8th.